There's a seat in Gate 14 of O'Hare International Airport that I will never forget. It's not a special seat. Plastic. Blue. One of 40 just like it, lined up under the fluorescent light. But I sat in it for 2 hours in March of 2019 with a boarding pass in my hand, and I nearly didn't come back. I want to tell you about that day. Not because it ended dramatically, not because I made some heroic decision, but because if you have ever sat in your own version of Gate 14, and I believe most of you have, then maybe what kept me is the same thing that can keep you. I had been teaching for 6 years at that point. 6 years of rising before the sun, 6 years of marking papers until midnight, 6 years of watching students walk into my classroom as children and walk out as something larger. Young men and women who could think, who could reason, who understood that knowledge was not just information, but power. I loved it. I genuinely loved it. But love, when it goes unreciprocated for long enough, begins to wear thin at the edges. By 2019, I was tired in a way sleep could not fix. I was tired of being overlooked for roles I had earned, tired of watching people with less dedication and less care move past me because they knew the right people or said the right things, tired of budgets that never stretched far enough, classrooms that were too crowded, and a system that seemed designed to extract from teachers without ever replenishing us. And I had an offer. A company in New York, education consulting, just good salary. Private sector. They would fly me out, put me up for a week, let me see if it felt right. The ticket was one way, open return. The implication was obvious. My wife said, "Come to go. See it. Don't decide yet, but go and see." So I went. The week was everything I had imagined, and nothing I had hoped for. The office was beautiful. Glass walls, standing desks, a coffee machine that cost more than my monthly salary. The people were sharp and ambitious and kind, in the way that people are kind when they don't yet need anything from you. I sat in meetings, I reviewed curriculum proposals, I ate meals I couldn't pronounce, and smiled at things I didn't find funny. And every evening I went back to the hotel room, sat on the edge of the bed, and felt something I hadn't expected. Empty. Not sad, not relieved. Empty. Like a room where all the furniture has been taken out, and you can suddenly see how old the walls are. I had built my identity, quietly, without realizing it, around what I did and why it mattered. And standing inside this beautiful, efficient, well-paid machine, I discovered that mattering was not on the agenda. Performing was on the agenda. Delivering was on the agenda. But the question of whether any of it meant something to a specific human life, in a specific seat, in a specific classroom, that question had no column in any spreadsheet I reviewed that week. By Friday morning, I had made my decision. I would take the offer. I told myself it was practical. I told myself it was wisdom, not defeat. I told myself a man has to think about his future, about his family, about what is sustainable. I booked the car to O'Hare. I packed my bags. I sat down in Gate 14. The gate was quiet. It was early. Most passengers were asleep in their chairs or staring at phones. The departure board showed my flight. On time. 1:40 to board. I had my phone out ready to call my wife, ready to tell her, "I'm coming home, but not to stay." And then, I don't know why, I opened my photo gallery instead. I'm not a sentimental person. I don't photograph much. But I had taken one photo that year that was still sitting near the top of my camera roll. It was a picture of the whiteboard in my classroom. After a particularly difficult lesson on reaction kinetics, the kind of lesson where you explain the same concept 4 different ways and still see the blank faces, one of my students had stayed behind. A girl, 17 years old. She had redrawn the entire diagram I had drawn. Her version, her colors, her labels, her way of making the concept make sense to herself. She had photographed it to study from later. I had photographed it because something in me didn't want to erase it. I stared at that photograph in Gate 14 for a long time. I thought about her name. I thought about the 3 students I knew were sitting for their AP exams in May. I thought about the boy who had told me in confidence last term that my class was the only reason he still came to school. And I thought, who will be there for them if I leave? Not in a grandiose way. I wasn't imagining myself as irreplaceable. There are other teachers. There will always be other teachers. But I knew, in a way that is hard to explain but impossible to ignore, that I was supposed to be there. Not because I had no other options, but because the work I was doing was not a stepping stone to somewhere else. It was the somewhere. I didn't make a dramatic decision. I didn't call anyone. I didn't pray some long prayer. I didn't write in a journal or have a conversation with a stranger who said exactly the right thing. I just sat with the photograph until I knew. Then I stood up, walked to the desk, and changed my ticket. One way, home. I called my wife in the car. She didn't say much. She just said, "I was wondering when you'd figure it out." She knew before I did. I went back to school the following Monday. Same classroom, same 2 bright lights, same pile of unmarked papers. And I sat at my desk before the students arrived in the early morning quiet and felt something return that I hadn't realized had been missing. Not certainty, not happiness, something simpler than both. A sense that I was standing in the right place. It has been years since that morning in Gate 14. Things haven't become dramatically easier. The system is still what it is. The resources are still never quite enough. There are still days I go home depleted and wonder why I chose a career that takes so much. But I also know this. The girl with the whiteboard diagram, she aced her AP chemistry exam. She's at college now, studying chemical engineering. She sent me a message last year thanking me for never letting her believe she wasn't capable. I have no memory of saying whatever I said, but she remembered, and she carried it forward. The boy who came to school for my class, he graduated, he works now. He has a younger brother he's putting through school. I'm not telling you this to make myself the hero of a story that doesn't belong to me. They did that work. I just showed up. But showing up, consistently, faithfully in the right place. That is not a small thing. It is perhaps the bravest thing most of us will ever do. So here is what I want to leave you with. If you are sitting in your own Gate 14 right now, if you are holding a ticket out of something you were built for, I'm not going to tell you that staying is always the right answer. Sometimes leaving is exactly what is needed. Sometimes the door is open for a reason. But before you go, open your camera roll, or close your eyes and go back to the moment this calling first found you. Go back to the face, the conversation, the small, ordinary miracle that made you say, "This is what I want to do with my life." And ask yourself, honestly, quietly, whether you are leaving because you have finished what you were sent to do, or whether you are leaving because it got hard. Because hard and done are not the same thing. I almost confused them. I'm glad I didn't. This is Luminous Voices, new stories every week. If this one found you at the right time, share it. Someone else is sitting in Gate 14 right now. Let's make sure they hear this.